Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Jack, and welcome to Trek Central. Tonight we're live with some New York Comic Con predictions or speculations. I'm here with my good friend Ketwolski, who I'll intro in a minute, but welcome to everyone joining us for our first live stream. Hello, everyone in the chat there. I see you. Welcome to our quickly put together live stream window, by the way. But welcome. I hope you're all doing well. I'm going to unmute Ketwolski. Boom. There we go. Hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome to the stream, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, good. So, shall we... well, I want you to tell us a bit about yourself first. I think that's the best idea, just in case people don't know who you are.
Talk about little old me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, my name is Ketwolski. I run the Ketwolski YouTube channel, in case you couldn't guess that. It's a Star Trek dedicated channel. I've had it for a couple of years now, where I cover mostly news regarding Star Trek right now, which, of course, there's so much of because the franchise is exploding. But I also do some more in-depth analyses of the different elements of Star Trek. Not so much lore, but a lot of just kind of critical thinking things as well. So if you guys aren't familiar with me, be sure to check me out, and hopefully I'll see you guys over there.
Thank you very much.
That's
It's great to have you here today. And obviously, we've previously done a stream on your channel as well, which was about San Diego Comic Con, wasn't it? It was just after we did that one.
Yeah, it was. So we're just reconvening.
We've come full circle.
That's it. That's it. Yep.
And I think this event, originally we thought New York Comic Con, which takes place this Saturday, the 5th of October, if anyone didn't know. I think it's at 6 p.m. BST. If anyone wants the full details, there's a link down below to our website of the article, which has all the details on the timings. But we originally looked at New York Comic Con, and we thought that it would be a small-scale event, didn't we? We thought, it might just be them reconvening again, talking about Picard and Discovery. But now this week, or last 2 weeks, they've mentioned trailers, a few more rumors have been circulating, and it looks like New York Comic Con could be as big as San Diego Comic Con. Wouldn't you agree?
I would totally agree. I think it's going to be hard to top the epic high that we all had watching that amazing first full Star Trek Picard trailer. But I think what we've been hearing kind of through different news outlets and different sources and things like that, that this may actually be just as good. And I'm very, very, very excited to see what we've got, not only for Picard, but for also Star Trek Discovery, which we didn't get a whole lot of at San Diego Comic-Con. So I think that they may be trying to knock it out of the park again with some Discovery stuff this time.
Indeed. I think Discovery, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, we've got a list of things I'm going to go through, so I'm going to try to do it all straight away.
Yeah,
but
okay, sorry.
We've heard rumors, obviously. Let's jump into the first part, trailers. That was mentioned by some VFX person for CBS. I won't name them because the tweet's recently been deleted, so I won't want to throw any shade around. But you saw that one as well. It was tweeted out and then quickly removed the following morning by presumably CBS. So we know there's going to be some trailers for Picard and Discovery, I believe was mentioned. So that's a given, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I won't say his name either. I will be definitely reporting on that coming in the next couple of days. But yeah, no, they basically he accidentally leaked the fact that there will be a brand new Picard trailer there. And I believe that does connect to, because this particular individual, again, not trying to name names, also has a massive amount of credits for Star Trek Discovery. And he does a lot of work with that show as well. And so I think that we're going to be getting two big trailers for both of them at New York Comic Con. But it's not necessarily just the trailers, though, that I think that's going to be interesting. I think it's what we're going to be seeing in the trailers. Specifically, the Picard one is, I've had my own share of thoughts about what could possibly be popping up in those trailers. But I think we're going to get some more exciting news bits just to kind of keep us kind of alive until the show finally airs and whenever 2020, whenever it finally comes.
And also, a good thing to mention out of that as well is what I've been thinking. If they're releasing a trailer, this most likely will be one of the big trailers for the end of the year, but will also carry them into the new year as well. So most likely it's going to carry a release date with it as well. Because currently we don't have a proper cemented release date for Starship Picard. And I think that's something people have been wanting. We know it's going to be probably late January, maybe early February. So maybe this trailer will carry an actual dedicated release date.
Yeah. My theory right now is mid-February, and the only reason I'm basing that off of is just right now the tentative release date of the prequel Picard novel is set for, I believe, the first week of February. So I would assume that they would try to put that before the show airs, just to boost sales. Bottom line is just to make people want to read it, which is going to make me buy it. But so I think that right now we're tracking mid-February. But yeah, having an actual date would be great. Would be super cool.
And also, we've got to think about the short treks as well, because we know they're going to play, I think two of them. Is it two of them? Two of them are prequels to Picard, or is it one of them? I can't remember off the top of my head. We know one of them is at least related to Picard and is going to set up the story somehow. So they've still got to find time for that to air. I mean, we didn't actually include short treks on our notes, but they should start soon, hopefully.
They should. Yeah, I'm assuming that they're waiting until after New York Comic Con to start releasing the short treks, because the whole plan right now that they've told us is they will all 6 of them will be aired prior to Picard's release. And one of them for sure is confirmed as being the kind of a prequel to the Picard show. And then there's, I think, 2 or 3 that are related back to Anson Mount. And then there's a few other ones kind of sprinkled about there. But yeah, so we haven't gotten anything really beyond the trailer that came out during San Diego Comic-Con. They've been radio silent with the short treks, which I find frustrating because I've been really wanting them to come out, because I'm just itching for more Trek right now. I think that their whole idea of keeping Trek on CBS All Access / the international streaming services year round, kind of keeping a Star Trek beat year round, I think is an interesting idea. I think we're worried a little bit about fatigue, but right now I'm just excited to get into it. I'll worry about fatigue later. Like, I just want to start experiencing more Trek.
Definitely. And I think the way we said it, just before I say that, TJ from Star Trek Pike, thank you very much. She's put 3 Enterprise, 1 Picard prequel, 2 animated with unknown female content. So that's all of our short treks so far. So just to correct myself earlier when I thought it was 2 Picard. So that's good. What I was going to say is we are now starting to see the building and foundation blocks of Alex Kurtzman's idea of Trek online all at the time, basically, on every time of the year. So not only do we have 3 series next year, we're going to have a plethora of other content as well. So I think we're starting to see that foundation things now, and it may be why they're being a bit radio silent. If they're still planning everything to execute it perfectly, that's probably why, they've not been too talkative about it just yet. Then again, what we've learned is they are talkative at certain parts, so it's interesting to see. I reckon New York Comic Con is going to come with a lot of release dates myself. I'm excited for that, and I think that's going to give people a lot to look forward to going into next year. And I think it'd be wise for them to do the release dates as well, because you think in general media terms and other franchises, there's a hell of a lot of releasing at the end of 2019, particularly in the Star Wars franchise, not to mention my name. However, it would be good to tell people when the Star Trek stuff's releasing in 2020, sorry. So therefore, release dates, I'm definitely banking on seeing them, at least for Picard.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I mean, obviously, New York Comic Con is such a, New York and San Diego are the 2 biggest ones, and what an amazing stage to announce to the whole world what the premiere dates of your new Star Trek shows are. So it makes sense that they're going to be trying to hold off and announce them. Well, basically all the world's attention is on this one event, in terms of pop culture. Like, we're all going to be watching. I'm going to be sitting in front of the computer. I'm sure you will be too, itching to see what the information is so we can transfer it out. And, so it makes sense. It makes sense for them to do it all at once and to just get the word out.
It's a shame they don't stream these sort of presentations, because it would be great. Instead, we have to rely to those lovely people on Twitter. Thank you very much. You do go along to them and live tweet them. So thank you to people who go along and do that. You are
seriously. Yeah, seriously. I know it's crazy that they haven't caught up with that.
I think it's more of a Comic-Con thing rather than CBS, actually, though. Because I think someone said I think someone saying San Diego Comic-Con in Hall H, they apparently never stream Hall H stuff. Someone said this to me. I can't remember who it was now, because it's going back in July. So maybe that's the reason behind it. It's a shame, but I guess it might be for privacy, or in case they show certain things that haven't been shown off yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I get, because they want people to buy tickets and to go to the event, and I get that. And I would say that they should catch up to what E3 is doing, but E3's falling apart for different reasons. Not to get off. Sorry. We'll get back on topic. So
that's all right. So someone in the chat just said that, thank you to everyone who's chatting away, by the way, greatly appreciated. Could Picard be based on the events following the Eternal Tide? Now, this kind of builds into our next sort of bullet point we've got going across if I highlight it, particularly of a certain rumor we've heard of someone maybe cameoing in it, who you mentioned, or it was not mentioned, it was the rumor was that came around and you showed it to me online. But would you like to make the name of who we've heard might be cameoing in Picard?
Yeah, so the name that I've heard, and if you guys are familiar with the Ketwolski channel, I don't subscribe to insider sources. This is not me trying to push an insider source. This is just us talking about some things that have been brought to my attention. And um, the one name that keeps popping up in several different conversations is Denise Crosby coming back as Sela. Empress Sela, as she's known in Star Trek Online continuity, which is beta canon, so I'm not going to say that they're going to follow any of her storyline there. But Sela, who is the daughter of Tasha Yar, who went back in time with the Enterprise B to get destroyed by Romulans above, I think it was Kittimer, and then they were kidnapped, and then she was impregnated by a Romulan consul, and then she eventually joined the Tal Shiar. Sometimes Star Trek is a little bit of a soap opera. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, so then she obviously had a problem in TNG, but we haven't seen much of her post. I want to say it was Reunification 1 and 2. I think that was the last time we saw her.
She kind of disappeared off it because some people thought she might have appeared in Nemesis, really, because obviously that focused heavily on the Romulans, obviously, but there was no whispers about her. So she's still out there in lore, we know.
She is still out there, and it wouldn't surprise me if she's back. We're obviously dealing heavily with the Tal Shiar. We know with 100% certainty the Tal Shiar are managing that Borg cube that we saw in the trailer, and it would make sense that somebody who has such a power play within the Romulan kind of secret military organization would try to kind of jack in and be a part of that whole situation. And it wouldn't surprise me at all that she was the one behind all of that to begin with, because she was always very kind of secretive and a little bit more nefarious and helped kind of set the tone in some regards for the clandestine operations of the Romulans. And
I remember her first appearance was where she remained in the shadows. This was around Unification, I believe. I can't remember the episode off my head because it's been ages since I've watched that part of The Next Generation. But when they wanted to reveal her, they kept her character in the shadows, so you can hear the voice. But unless you actually saw and paid close attention to the voice, you didn't know it was Denise Crosby playing Sela. And then obviously the shock revelation, like, oh my god. So, and also the reason why I wanted to bring up JD's comment there is we obviously mentioned Denise Crosby as Sela. In the extended canon, aka Star Trek Online, her story is quite in-depth, particularly related around the destruction of Romulus. Now, obviously we know the destruction of Romulus is going to play heavily in Star Trek Picard and various events through that, and it's almost going to be not forefront of a story, but it's at least going to be in the story and a heavily mentioned event. So the fact Sela could be involved, and the fact her character in extended canon has previously dealt with that incident and been heavily related to it, does start connecting story parts together. Again, this is pure speculation, it's not fact, but you can see how things start to come together with the story almost.
Yeah, I mean, we're theory crafting here. And again, this is just, I want to reiterate again, that this is not, we're not trying to push some kind of insider source agenda. Oh, no. We're already talking about Denise Crosby coming back because at this point in time, any big character that's not dead could possibly come back, in my opinion. So yeah, her coming back definitely fits in with the other stories that we do know about 100%, that the creative team of Picard sat down with the creative team of Star Trek Online for several different discussions to pick apart some of their storylines that they've done. And most of that obviously is centered around the Legacy of Romulus expansion that they had inside of Star Trek Online, which obviously heavily featured Sela. She was one of the main antagonists throughout the entire video game for years. She's been going back to voice her character on that video game for years. Denise Crosby has. So it definitely is a lot of precedence, and there's a lot of material in beta canon to kind of draw upon to flesh out her character on screen and to connect back to the destruction of Romulus. I'm really curious to how they had to kind of get into a little bit on a discussion here, but I'm really curious how they're going to play the destruction of Romulus, because obviously for those who know in Star Trek Online, it was way more complicated than it was just a supernova kind of going up. There was a whole separate subplot, which I'm not going to spoil here, that was going on. So I'm wondering how they're going to play that on screen, and if they're going to make it kind of like this really interesting storyline that connects not only just the fallout of the destruction, but how it was destroyed. And I hope that they play that up a bit. I think that'll be kind of fun to see. Like a little.
We know that Picard's definitely involved with that somehow, not necessarily in the destruction, but at least in the relief efforts, the rescue armada and things like that. It's heavily implied that Jean-Luc Picard is involved in that, and I think this is where the character of Elnor comes in. Particularly, we know the young actor in Nunny, who you spoke about recently, is playing a young version of him, therefore maybe a rescued Romulan or Romulan refugee. It's connecting together here, and you can start to see how the story of Star Trek Picard is coming together. presumably, trailers are very good and information is very good at deceiving people. We all know that one quite well. So this is presuming things are coming together here. So the destruction of Romulus is going to be a central event. I don't know. It's really interesting to see how it all blends together, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've done a few timeline graphics and a few timeline videos, and the dates don't specifically align just yet with when the rescue armada occurred and the destruction of Romulus as we know it currently. So they may play fast and loose a little bit with those dates. But what I'm actually thinking is that they are aware of the supernova kind of going up for a few years, and that he leads an armada to try to save Romulans, and it's going to be like this whole relocation thing, and Romulus is still going to get destroyed, because we know that from what happened with Spock in Star Trek 2009, and from this, obviously from this trailer as well. But I am curious how they're going to play up that and kind of expand upon what was essentially a 15-second clip in Star Trek 2009. They're building a whole series around it, and I'm very excited about it. I think it's great, and it ironically, it was one of the major plot points of that movie, and we just so happened to have a showrunner who was one of the main writers of that film. So I think it's going to be taken care of well. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, but I'm hopeful. I'm excited, I should say. I'm very excited.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk about another Next Generation cameo. You just made a video on this really quickly, which was obviously Q. Let's speak about that one. I think we have to cover that one just to be obvious. You think Q could potentially be returning due to, what was it, a 1 second slide you managed to capture? You've got good eyes, to be honest.
Listen. Okay, I draw inspiration from all footage. These visual effects artists are going to get fired because they keep leaking all this
because
stuff.
of us.
Well, that's true. Well, that's listen. Okay, they put it out there. It's public. All right, I didn't break into his account. But yeah, so this particular visual effects artist posted up Instagram of somebody taking some VFX behind the scenes footage. They were taking some still images of a character that they were obviously working on, and then at the last split second, the camera panned to the left, and it revealed somebody holding what appeared to be a giant kind of gold staff. I don't know what you want to call it, walking stick,
and also the red glove as well. That's like a de facto giveaway.
Yeah, this giant bright red glove.
Yeah, it's like, what is this for Royal Guard? So what is it? It basically looks like Q's like attire, shall we say, from the first episode of Next Generation, and then we see the same thing in All Good Things, which obviously replicates that episode in essence. So it's that, I think it's his court uniform is what it's called. I think that's the official name for it, because obviously it's in his court.
He was a judge in like a World War III, post-World War III styled American human court system. I remember because they had like all the guys in military uniforms on drugs and all this stuff. And he was like a judge there. He was judging humanity. That was the whole shtick. And it makes perfect sense, because even at the end, the last episode of TNG, which is the last time we see him in relations to Picard, he's like, the trial's not over, far from it, it's going to continue on. So him popping in for a little bit, it would just be so great. I mean, I know that's a little bit of fan service. Maybe they're going a little load if they, bringing him in, but I would just be so excited to see him back and to see that banter between those two characters. I mean, when are we ever going to see these guys on screen again together?
Exactly. I think in terms of fan service there, like you mentioned, it is essentially fan service to a degree, but as long as I think it's handled correctly and isn't just crammed all in one episode for the sake of fan service, I think it can be handled fine. It comes down to how the cameos in these shows are going to be handled. If they're just given to us and it serves the story correctly, some may disagree with this, then I personally think that fits it fine. However, if they're just popping up for the sake of views and to draw attention, I don't think that's doing quite well. But also we know they're not doing that essentially, because if they wanted to, they could have shoved Riker and everyone else in the trailer along with Jerry Ryan and Brent Spiner. That's probably the way they could have done it to generate a little bit more clicks and views to go check out their product. However, instead, it looks like they're treating it to, better aid the story. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see until it comes out, but I wouldn't slam them for fan service if Q did end up popping up maybe towards the season final, like one of your viewers mentioned.
Yeah. So I'll say two things. First is, I agree with what you're saying. I think they're being very respectful with how they're approaching the inclusion of previous cast members and not just trying to bring them in for the views. But Triangulum Studios just said that there is a short trek featured called Q&A. One of the short treks is titled Q&A, which some people have theorized is one about Q. My gut is saying that it's going to be about the elevator episode where there's going to be the turbo lift episode with Spock and Number One in there, because they're obviously going to be doing, that was kind of the joke in the trailer, was that they were asking questions back and forth. But I would be totally cool with having a Q short trek too, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there. But more to your point, like, if they bring him in, I would like to see it. You could do it respectfully. You could even do it like a fun thing where it's like, he comes in and he tries to help him out, or I would like to see maybe at the end of
you've just
the
given me a
show.
great idea there. So we know that Data is obviously a big part of Picard at a minute due to Data's death, and obviously Brent Spiner's appearing in Star Trek Picard. We know that the person on screen is supposedly meant to be Data, but obviously many of us think it's going to be a hologram recreation because the actual Data was blown to bits in Nemesis, as we all know. It's not a spoiler, it happened years ago. So
right, that's not a spoiler.
We've heard in comics and various bits of memory beta content and extended lore that Q basically came back to Picard and magically brought Data back to life through the snap of his fingers in a typical Q fashion. Something like that could happen, and that could give Data back, theoretically. Again, that's just running wild with theories there, but it is something which could realistically happen when you think about it now that we've mentioned Q might return. Again, this is pure speculation. There is no confirmation Q is returning in any form. However, that story could fit nicely together. I'm not sure it'd sit well with many people. What do you think?
I don't think it would sit well with a lot of people, no. Maybe even myself. My first reaction to you telling me that theory is... my feelings are I want Data to remain dead, and I want the part of the story of Picard that we see on screen as him eventually accepting the fact that he can't bring his friend back, and that it's a bittersweet kind of let go kind of a thing, and that Picard's not just getting his no-win scenario, Kirk style, where he brings in his primordial buddy to save Data. It's my feelings initially when you say that. But at the same time, though, if Brent Spiner was interested in coming back full-fledged and being a part of like season 2, for instance, which we know that they're doing, then I'd be okay with it. Like, because then it would connect Q into the story very, very in like a very funny kind of friendly, humorous way, and it would open the door to bring Brent in as a main cast member for season 2. So I would be okay with that if that was kind of the way they were going to go with it. I guess it would kind of depend on what they're going to do with Data's character. Because if they just bring Q in to bring him back to life and then Brent's not interested in being a part of the show, then it's like, you brought him back for no reason. Where I feel like letting Picard deal with the actual loss of his dear friend Data, and us as the audience, because it happened so abruptly, and then they kind of teased it at the end of Nemesis that his mind was in B4, but it was like that was it. We didn't really get any closure from Alpha Canon in regards to Data.
No, we didn't.
So it would also be a closure for us as the audience, as fans, as letting Data go finally after 20 years. So. Yeah, I'm open to anything, really. I am. I'm super open to anything. I want to see him back. I want to see Q back. I want to see him doing little jokes. I want to see their banter. I want to just hear him scream Q one more time. I do. I'm sorry.
Q, get off my ship.
Yeah, exactly. I do. I just want to hear it. I'm sorry. I'm just such a super fan. I just want to hear some of these things, and maybe that makes me a dork, or I
think it's because not only do we, the fans, love these characters, but the actors playing them love them as well. John Delancey really loved playing Q at various stages, and you can see that in various interviews as well. And he always liked to bring that sort of flair. All the time he played Q, I was watching an interview earlier today after you mentioned it, and he always liked to bring something new to Q every time he appeared. So think how many years he's had to think about it now. I think he would definitely be up for returning it. I don't think he's spoken about it or has been asked about it since, because I know various other people have been asked about cameos and stuff in Picard. But he's remained quiet on that one. Then again, a lot of people remain quiet and suddenly they're in it. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the thing is John Delancey, Delancey. Okay, he's kind of radio silent. He's very active on social media about different things, but he's been radio silent about this. I think he's very, very good at keeping secrets in a good way. So I'm very... He would be the last person in the world to tell us if he was going to be on that show. Leave it to the visual effects artists, though, to spoil it with their behind-the-scenes footage clip.
So one thing I wanted to ask you quickly, I know we're straying from speculation New York Comic Con here, but just one quick more thing on about TNG cameos. Gates McFadden. She's been very quiet, and we did a video on this on Where is Dr. Crusher, particularly because she was a central part of Star Trek: Next Generation, but also Picard's life as well, because those two eventually went on to form a relationship in extended canon, and we sort of saw the elements of that in the movies as well, sort of it coming together. And in fact, again, she's been radio silent, 'cause I think all of the Next Generation cast are either in Picard or have mentioned it. I think the exceptions are LeVar Burton and obviously Michael Dorn, who we know have at least been on set, thanks to the various articles and such. However, Gates McFadden has been very quiet and hasn't mentioned like a thing recently about Picard. I think the last time she was asked was back in maybe, what was it, March? From my research I found. And she hasn't been asked anything about it since.
Yeah, my thing is, she's going to be in the show.
You think so?
I believe it 100%. I was hesitant to be super committal to that ideal until she appeared at Star Trek Las Vegas, which she did.
Okay.
So her popping in there, which she's kind of come and gone from STLV. She's kind of been there a few times and then not always. She's not as religious about going as some of the other Trek stars are. But the fact that she popped in this time, I'm like, okay. And the fact that she's avoiding the topic completely, like is refusing basically to answer any questions about talk about it, to me is like, I feel like you're just trying to be very cloak and dagger about it. I believe she's going to be in it. 100%.
Well, hopefully she's not dead like I said in our video.
I think she's going to. Oh well, my thing is, I think she's dead. I think she's going to be dead.
Oh, you think so as well? Okay. I reckon she went down the Enterprise. That's why Picard's depressed. Everyone can go and watch that video if you wish to. Don't hate me for killing her off.
Yeah. No, for sure, she's dead.
I was writing the script and thinking, I am not going to be in some people's favorite books of release of this video, but oh well, keep writing.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever, I mean, we're just speculating, but at the same time, though, all signs kind of point to a very poor outcome and a divorce.
Some tragedy has happened in Picard's life. I personally think the destruction of the Enterprise is related to that, simply because it's not been shown yet. I mean, the Enterprise E, or the Enterprise in general, is heavily related to Picard, obviously, and the fact there's not been any mention or seen it yet, it does seem very odd. And obviously, we want it to be Picard's new story, but we've seen mentions of Riker and other things like Romulus, but not the Enterprise, one of the most important bits of arguably Picard's life above the other characters, and it's not been mentioned. I do reckon something's happened about ship and some tragedy has happened, maybe during Rescue Armada or something revolving around destruction of Romulus. Again, we'll have to wait.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree 100%, and I also believe that there's no way that he would have been promoted to Admiral without being able to keep the Enterprise, and just because it just doesn't fit the character. I don't think he's going to leave the character. Like you said, like the Enterprise itself is its own separate character that is such an important part of his life.
Exactly.
That him just abandoning it to go be an admiral someplace else is so far outside of the bounds of his character.
Something I would have to have been, a pivotal moment to make him become admiral.
Right.
And I think we're going to learn about that in either one of the short treks or the book that's coming out. And as we know, I think Una McCormack, is she writing the book? It's that one, isn't it?
She is, yeah.
And then also we've got the comic as well. There's a comic book series by IDW coming out.
Yep, yeah, I think there's a 2 or 3 part comic and
is that
then the
December?
prequel book.
I'm not sure yet. I think
the comic book's coming soon.
I think as soon as Discovery Aftermath is finished, which is fantastic, by the way. We'll talk about that more later.
Yeah.
Not you, Alexa, be quiet. Basically, I think that comic's due to start in December. That's probably my guess for Picard.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
which I'm very excited for.
That's all right. So thank you to Star Trek Pike TJ again, who just let me know while we was talking about that. Basically, there will be. She thinks NYCC had live streaming of panels last year. Not sure if they'll be this year. The reason SDCC didn't do it, San Diego, is because of some license they've got with Comic-Con HQ videos. That's why they couldn't do it. The Q&A is the elevator episode, so unlikely to be John Delancey related to that one. Rebecca Romaine confirmed that apparently. It was formerly Chaos Theory. So that's been spoken about in many interviews past SDCC. If you want to follow any Pike news, by the way, head over to TJ on the @Star Trek Pike account. She does a great job of it. I think it's @Captain Pike's Enterprise. TJ, you can link your stuff in the chat if you want. Anyway, should we talk about Discovery, as I think we've done enough of Picard for the minute? Unless you had anything to finish on.
Let's do it. Yeah. No, you're good. Let's go.
Excellent. So obviously covering the same thing with Picard again, we presumably know we're getting a trailer for Discovery, which is going to be great, as presumably if it does happen, this will be our first trailer for Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. We do not know very much about Season 3 of the show. They've been radio silent about it. there's hardly any details to go by. Obviously, we know a little bit. There's a new character. David Adjala is playing Book or Booker, and Burnham is separated from a crew. That's all about we know at the minute. That's that's all we know.
That's literally it. That's all we got from San Diego Comic-Con. That's it. That's all we've got. And so I think that we'll get a trailer. They've been filming for a few months now. They've started filming, I think, second week of July. So they've been filming for a little while now.
Yeah.
I think that we'll get a trailer. I've heard that we'll get one. It'll probably be a bit of a teaser. I don't think it's going to be a full trailer. I think it's just going to be something to keep the palates wet, to get our imaginations kind of
That's what
running.
I'm thinking. Something to just, end off, because this is the last major event for 2019, really. So I think this is going to be, to tie us over until something, next year. I reckon, it's going to be now Radio Science for Discovery, probably until Picard's out the way, because you don't really want to cross the streams too much, is my guess, because you wouldn't want to interfere with two products, I guess. However, this teaser, like you say, it's probably going to be a short one, nothing too much, but maybe for the first couple of episodes, most likely they've probably finished a lot of the first episode at least, and the second episode, so it's probably going to be encompassing where the Discovery ends up and goes from there, and gives us, just a little bit to bite with, and all our speculation theories to run away with for the next year.
Yeah, it's gonna give us just enough to keep our imaginations kind of going, and like you said, the speculation and theory crafting train to keep moving forward. We don't know anything else about the show. I've tried to keep my ear to the ground as much as humanly possible.
We know they're roughly shooting episode 8 at the minute, predictably.
Yeah,
and we know by October 25th-ish they'll be shooting episode 9, which Jonathan Frakes is directing, because he couldn't appear at Destination Star Trek in the UK because he'll be shooting episode 9 of Discovery Season 3. I think it's either episode 8 or episode 9. Might have to quote me on that one. So therefore, they're obviously almost halfway through now. I think the production order was 14 episodes, so about halfway through.
Yeah, I think it was episode 8 he's going to be doing, I'm pretty sure. But that's why he couldn't go to... That's why he couldn't go to Destination Star Trek, like he said, which also kind of helped confirm that, or kind of debunk that other kind of topic, which was about that Star Trek Discovery Season 3 was going to be only short treks, and it was going to be a truncated season, which clearly it's not if they're already filming up to 8 episodes, and they're filming for this long. They're clearly going to full season.
I think it's going to be a full season.
What's up?
I think it's going to be a full season.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think it's going to be probably around 13, 14 episodes, which is kind of where they've been hovering at right now. And I'm super excited. What'd you say?
A live stream notification just fighting for life out of me. I didn't realize I had that on.
Oh, look at that thing! Look at that!
It's disabled.
Is that a Picard zombie or what?
Well, let's just pretend it's some weird Romulan. Let's pretend that, because on my screen it says it's disabled. Let's just pretend that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
that's a
Romulan, you guys. That's a Borg, actually. It's a Borg with blood. It's a vampire Borg.
That woke me up.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I should be fixed.
So with Discovery, they have such a huge blank slate, because they've really just basically soft rebooted the show. As I've said in the past, they've soft rebooted it. We have these characters that we've known now for 2 seasons that we're getting kind of invested in. I wouldn't say that we're as invested as the other characters, because we've obviously only been with them for 2 seasons. We need more time to kind of build our own relationships with them as the audience, which is why I hope that they continue on past 3 seasons. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, they have a blank slate, and I'm curious to see what they do with these characters. I can't wait to see who becomes the captain of the Discovery, or what's going on with the Federation, or what's happening in the Quadrant. And obviously, now that this is post Picard, are they going to be trying to do some kind of crossover? Not necessarily a full crossover event, MCU style, but are they going to do any kind of story thread crossovers, that things that are happening in Picard will then impact how we're viewing things in the future with Star Trek Discovery? Are they going to be doing some kind of connections there and stuff? That would be kind of cool.
So
and they have the ability to do that.
I like what you mentioned there. Now, one thing people have given flack for Discovery is it's not respecting sort of what came after it and what came before, in a way. A lot of people are upset about that, rightly so. Some people are very protective over it. However, now I think with Discovery being X amount of years into the future, it can better respect what's came before it, because it's all cemented down. But also with new things like Picard, it can freely work with them. They're not having to do a time balance of where they're having to constantly modify it, which is great. So I think Discovery is able to better respect Star Trek canon a lot more now. I don't know if you agree, now that it's in 950 years in the future. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you sat down and went through all of the list of things that people say that Star Trek Discovery broke canon with, you could probably talk your way out of most of them. I've done it actually myself because I'm a loser, but a lot of the things you could kind of be like, oh, well, you didn't know about this, or like you can work your way out of it. But it was always kind of dangerous to play that. Like you're playing a little dangerous, you're playing in a minefield because people still get really upset about it because they react so knee-jerkly. But pulling it way into the future, you're right. Now they can do whatever they want and it doesn't affect anything because there is no alpha canon instance that's really been around there other than the Temporal Cold War. The Temporal Cold War from Enterprise is around this time period, and I'm curious to see if they're going to pull any of those story threads into maybe what happened. Because I don't know if you're familiar with how familiar you are with the Temporal Cold War, but
we've got a lot of stuff set around that. We've been meaning to work on some videos. I'll tell you about them afterwards, but gotcha. We've got the theories flowing.
So Daniels, the way he talked about the Federation to Archer, it almost seemed as though the Federation wasn't a thing anymore. Not that it was destroyed, but that it had evolved and grown into something different. And that it was like, he always talked about it in the past tense, whereas like the whole Temporal Cold War, the Temporal Accords, the organization, that whatever organization he was working for on Earth, obviously still, but it seemed like it had transcended just the Federation of Planets and it had become something different. So I wonder if they're going to play that angle a little bit. And I am still of the belief, and I think we've talked about this before, but I'm still of the belief that the arrival of Discovery and the time suit is going to kick off the Temporal Cold War and cause the Temporal Accords. That's just my
what I'd love is if we can get some Enterprise cameos and have to go like some timey-wimey stuff. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I want to see
wheel out Scott Bakula. Let's
get him
go.
back in it, because I know what was it? Star Trek Las Vegas. I've forgotten the name now. Is it Anthony Montgomery? Is that who plays Travis? I think that's his name. And Dominic Keating and Connor Trinneer sat down, and they basically originally thought they might have been in Star Trek Discovery. Apparently, according to Brian Fuller's original plan, was to have it set closer to Enterprise and have them cameo in it. There was something spoken about this towards Star Trek Las Vegas, so someone have to go back and find it. However, how cool would that have been? I would have personally liked that, because I was a big fan of Enterprise. I really liked that series. I know it's not the biggest favourite in Star Trek overall, but I liked Enterprise. I'd love to see some more connections of that, especially with Temporal Cold War. And rightly so, like you say, Discovery Season 3 could connect with that. We've been thinking about it ourselves and how it relates to the Temporal Cold War, and obviously Discovery messing around with time as well, and this wealth of knowledge inside the Discovery using the sphere data. There's a hell of a lot to play here, and if these factions we know from Star Trek, like the Tholans and Romulans, have evolved over X amount of years, what would they have become now, including the Federation as well? There's a hell of a lot for Discovery's writers to play with here. I think it's going to be great.
I agree too, and I want to comment really quick. Somebody in the chat, Jimmy Dean, said they're the Vidraesh, or whatever the name was, or Federation has fallen apart. And you're referencing, of course, the Calypso short trek, the very mysterious and head-scratching Calypso short trek. So what happened in the Calypso short trek is, I believe right now, myself and many others believe that we were actually in the year 4000, not in the year 3000. Because it said the Discovery was sitting in that nebula for 1,000 years, but the Discovery just did a 930-year jump, and I think that the Discovery will be parked there for an additional 1,000 years post that. So we're going to be in the year 4000 with the Vidraesh. That's just a current working theory that we're working with. Jimmy Dean, I do want to comment on that because I know a lot of people bring that up. It's like, well, what about the Calypso short trek? Isn't that what we're going to be seeing? And right now, that doesn't really play up correctly because of what we know from the Temple Accords and stuff like that. And with what you said about Enterprise, I think that would have been cool to bring in some of the Enterprise characters. Enterprise, I loved after I was able to watch it correctly on like streaming services and watch it all the way through without any interruptions, because fucking UPN doesn't know how to keep a schedule straight, you know, or that's how we did it. I don't know what channel you guys.
When I first watched Enterprise, it was the last Star Trek series I watched. So I believe I think the first Star Trek series I started with was Voyager. Then obviously I corrected myself over time and watched it properly through, the chronological order. I went back to 2S, then Next Generation. I obviously watched Enterprise last. Weirdly enough, I'd say chronological didn't work that way. But when I watched Enterprise, I think I had to watch it on some website, shall we say, because I don't think Netflix was properly around back then.
Yeah, a Netflix, a version of Netflix, but pre-Netflix. Yeah, that's how I was able to watch Enterprise fully correctly, because growing up, like it was a nightmare to watch because it was always on different days and it was always all over the place. And then season 3, especially because it was so serialized, it was hard to follow the story. You know, you didn't know what the hell was going on because that was the whole Xindi war crisis. But once I actually able to watch it like full all the way through, Enterprise is probably my second favorite.
I love the feeling of Enterprise personally. I really liked the design of it and how early the Federation, well, it wasn't Federation, how early Starfleet came, and you see how humans, rose up from nothing and basically came to what we see by Picard's time. By the way, thank you to people in the chat here. Irish Trekkie, love to see you here, and Triangle Studios. Also, is it Michael Curran just said, we need Enterprise shorts. Imagine a short trek in Enterprise. That'd be great. I want that.
That would be great. I'm totally fine with bringing the whole team back. The whole team is still alive. They're all still alive. I don't think you'll be able to get DePaul back. No. I think that Jolene Blalock has gone publicly saying that she won't ever do that again. But
I think one thing is interesting to keep in mind. Star Trek Enterprise, was it 2002 or 2001? I can't remember off the top of my head.
2001, I want to say.
So we're about 2 years away from 20th anniversary for Enterprise, when you think about it.
Yeah.
So maybe
we could do something.
And if Alex Kurtzman's, his deal goes through 2021 as well, looking at it, there could be a lovely little short trek or mini project of getting those crew back together. I'd love to see that.
Oh yeah, me too. That would be so great. That would be so fun. Or if they did something, especially if they do like a time travel plot with the Discovery show, and maybe they keep jumping through time, not necessarily like a full blown like sliders or something like that, but maybe they do another time jump, or they're trying to get back into their time, or whatever the hell they're doing. Like maybe they meet up with them or something, or I don't know, something cool. I don't know. They could do something that brings them back, and I would be just ecstatic about that. I think that would be so fun. I think they deserve it. I think because the show has become so popular now, Enterprise became so popular after it was canceled. I feel like most Trekkies would absolutely apprate that.
NX-01 refit, like someone said there. NX-01 refit. I've got a model by Egamos on my desk, the NX-01 refit. One of my favorite ships from that era. I love how the refit blends what would be the Constitution class into the NX class as well. I'd love to see that on screen. I know many others would as well, because that was obviously going to be in season 5. I think if they had a season 5, it was going to make the NX-1 refit. So I'd love to see that. Anyway, back to New York speculation, because we're rambling.
Yeah.
One other thing we had is obviously we had David Ajala as the new cast member for Star Trek Discovery at San Diego Comic-Con. Now we know that CBS were also looking for additional cast members for Star Trek Discovery. So what if New York Comic-Con might see further cast announcements? What do you think on that?
I think so. I definitely think that that's definitely something that they could use to kind of share with the audience without revealing too much about what's going on in the show, because even though we know Booker, like who the hell is Booker, we have no information. It's just letting us kind of spin our wheels with the speculation and theory. So yeah, expanding on the additional characters that we may see. The only thing I don't want to see is if they actually are bringing in a third brand new character to play the captain, they need to not mention that. That's not something that they should talk about at all. They should just leave that.
Off the top of my head, I have to correct myself on this, but I believe they were looking for a woman to play a young character or a young female. But I can't remember the last time that was mentioned. I believe that was early in the year. I'd have to go back and double check on it now. However, that could be someone. I don't think that would be the captain though, because the way they worded the character description sounded way too young to be a captain, and the character's presence didn't seem right. And from a lore point of view, you wouldn't have some 20-year-old walk on and instantly take command of a starship from another time. That wouldn't make sense. Then again, this is Star Trek, so who knows?
Right, exactly. Yeah, who knows what they're going to do?
She's actually 55.
Yeah, she's a different race. She just looks super young. It's fine. She's a Vulcan, actually.
It's a great race. How do we be a part of that one?
Yeah, I need to get their elixir of life. But yeah, I'm totally cool with them announcing more names for different characters. I think that's something that they could do to help kind of fill the time and kind of keep us all excited about what's going on, to give us, because again, like that's telling us stuff without telling us anything really, because you haven't really told us anything. Like, okay, this is the actor and that's the character, but I don't know anything about what that person's going to be doing. So what's going on with them or what's happening with them, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. So I think that's definitely an easy kill for them to do, just to kind of keep the excitement going. Yeah, I could see that.
That could be pretty interesting. I think, we might see another cast announcement. Again, New York Comic Con, for anyone who doesn't know, is on October 5th, this coming weekend, Saturday. It's going to be interesting to see what we reveal for Picard and Discovery. I'm really excited for both of them. And obviously, final point on Discovery, I did put down maybe a release date for Season 3. However, I think that's highly unlikely, as I know a few people are asking about when it's coming. I know a lot of people want to know, but I don't think they'll give us a release date just yet. I think we're later to see that next year. Probably when Picard ends, maybe. I mean, I could be, not correct there. However, I think it would make sense releasing a date right now.
Yeah, if anything, it'll be vague. It'll be like summer 2020,
Fall, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometime 20 or just. I don't think that they're gonna give us a full-blown date because they obviously have no
looking at the
idea.
production schedule for Star Trek at the minute, it's going to be Picard start of the year, Lower Decks middle of the year, and then Discovery end of year. Interesting how there's no mention of Lower Decks at this one. I guess they must be still super secret on that, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if that's because maybe they don't feel like they have time, whereas San Diego, they had a little bit more time on stage in Hall H than they do here. Because here, that's kind of interesting to bring up too, is at San Diego, they had kind of the run of the gambit a little bit. They were basically the largest franchise that came out of the gate swinging at San Diego Comic-Con, but they don't have that advantage here at New York. They're going to be dealing with a lot of other major studios kind of slamming in some heavy footage and PR for their upcoming projects. So they may be trying to just zero in and trying to focus their message and not trying to spread out the message too much, which maybe that's why they're doing that. But yeah, I mean, I want to know more about, as much as we talk about Picard and Discovery and stuff like that, the one that is the most bizarre and interesting to me is obviously Lower Decks, because we've had the animated show before, but that was basically just an animated version of the TOS show, whereas this one is going to be a totally different comedic style approach to Star Trek, which is a whole different genre that we haven't experienced before with Star Trek. So it's a really experiment, and I hope it's good. I hope it pops off. I hope people like it. Because if it is good, then I think that opens the door up to other avenues of exploring the franchise of Star Trek, and it doesn't allow it to just become stagnated with a captain and a ship and a crew and exploring the galaxy, which we can only do so much of, before it all tires out, which we already experienced, mid 2000 when they canceled Enterprise because people had a little bit of fatigue with the show, I think, with that formula, I should say.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. I'm really excited for Lower Decks to us. Originally, the animation didn't catch me, and I always think animation in, Star Trek's like, okay, it's not been tried for X amount of years, but why not? Let's try it again. Let's see how it does. And I think Lower Decks is going to surprise people when it comes out. I mean, you can see more of it, because we've only seen stills so far. We've not actually seen how the animation works on screen. I think we saw a blink. Yeah. That's about it. We need to see a little bit more of that. But from what Mike Mahan has been saying, and what he mentions on Twitter in his interviews, I think it looks really cool, or at least it sounds really cool. I can't wait to see that. Just about something else for a minute. Michael Cohen says a third show might be talked about this weekend. I'm going to say unlikely. I don't expect to see anything about Section 31 or the rumored Pike series at New York Comic Con. If I was wrong, then hey, that'd be lovely. However, I think the focus is clearly got to be on Picard and then Discovery for this. This is the end of year one, and like Ketwolski just said, they don't have massive amounts of time, so they're going to want to get their message across quickly. If we were to see any more talk about a third show, it's going to be next year, once Picard's probably out of the dust, I'd say. It's out of the space. That's when we'll see conversations about either Pike or Section 31. So do you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would be surprised if they try to slam the Section 31 or Pike show down our throats here. It could go either way. Like, they don't have a lot of time, and they're definitely dealing with a lot of other franchises at New York Comic Con. So they may be trying to zero in their message. But like I said earlier, this is an opportunity where the whole world is kind of zeroed in on New York Comic Con. And if they want to get the word out about their new show, this is also one of the largest stages in order to do that as fast as possible. Could they say something about it? Maybe. I mean, depending if they take questions, somebody may ask the question. They may even plant a question in the audience to ask so they can talk about it a little bit. But I don't think they're going to be doing that much discussion about it. I think that they're trying to hold that as close to the vest as possible to keep building up the focus on Picard. And then I think once Picard is done, then we're going to shift the focus into Discovery, Lower Decks, and then a third show, which is probably going to be like a Section 31 or Pike. I'm still of the belief personally that they're going to merge the Pike idea with Section 31. I think
that could be pretty interesting because they have the Enterprise bridge, and I was watching an interview with Ben Robinson from Eagle Moss, which Iris Trekkie who did on his channel. You can go watch that, by the way, it's great. And even Ben mentioned that interview there. It's like CBS have this Pike set, and you'd be a bit odd to think they're not going to do anything with it. So I think something's definitely going on behind the scenes. Many of us think so, right so far. So, you know, it's going to happen. And, you know, I don't say it's going to happen, but you don't just build a set like that and use it twice and put it in storage. It just doesn't happen. So I think for people wanting a Pike series, and like Ketwolski said there, if they do merge a Section 31 show, that could be quite cool. Because I think when the Section 31 show was announced, there wasn't the overwhelming reception to the ideas they were expecting. Personally, for myself, some may disagree with this, I am not bouncing off the walls about a Section 31 show. Something about that just doesn't instill me with excitement. I'm definitely intrigued by it and interested, but it's not what I definitely want. I'd rather have a Pike show, and I think they've seen that now. No, obviously no insulting to, you know, the actors like Shazid Latif and Michelle Yeoh, but I think Pike is what people want, more eccentric to Star Trek. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense, and I would agree with you if I had to rank a list of all the current announced productions, that are being done for Star Trek right now. At the bottom two on the list, kind of cycling places, is the Nickelodeon series and Section 31, and that's partly because I'm not super interested in those, but partly because we don't know anything about them. So my anticipation is kind of just moot, it's just kind of like, all right, well, we'll see what you got, like we'll see what happens. I don't really know how this is going to play out, but that's why I think just in terms of sheer budgeting and utilizing correctly the sets and the actors and the managing of the schedules, it makes sense that they would, instead of pumping millions of dollars into a show that people don't really know too much about and ignoring a show that people really want, which is Pike, putting them together to beef up their Section 31 ideas and to give people a Pike show, I think is just a clear, obvious business decision. Like to me, it just makes perfect sense. Like it's a clear, obvious decision.
As TJ said there, if we had a Pike show, we can have all the characters Disco left behind, like Lorel, Harry Mudd, Ash, all those people. They can fit into that series. And I, for some reason, I think Section 31, I don't know, it could be interesting. It's a different take on Star Trek, which is always great, because I think Star Trek does exceed well when it does different takes. I mean, we saw DS9 was a radically different take back in those days, and although people didn't like it at the start, it stood up on its own 2 feet, and it's easily one of the most recognizable and loved shows of Star Trek as a whole. So I think there's nothing wrong with exploring new frontiers in Star Trek. However, I'm just not sure at the minute. I don't know. For some reason, Section 31 just doesn't excite. I don't like, when I think about it, I don't get super excited. But when I think about a Pike series and a Bridge of Enterprise and Anson Mount in that lovely yellow uniform.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. And I think a lot of people have the same feeling. And I think that Alex Kurtzman and company are aware of that, the temperature of the
they teased it at San Diego Comic-Con as well. I loved, Alex Kurtzman's comments like, so what do people think about a Pike series? And just the crowd went up. He's like, well, think about it. It's blatantly obvious at this point that CBS are thinking about a Pike series, and they'd just be trolling us at this point. As me and TJ talk about quite a lot, there's rumors about Pike moving on all the time. We see CBS are still using Anson Mount in their advertisements for Discovery in his Enterprise uniform, which is odd when he spent the whole season, bar 3 episodes, in a Discovery uniform. So it's a bit odd how that's going through.
He looks better in the Enterprise uniform.
He does. So I think, there's something definitely going behind the scenes here, but I think that's a topic for another day. One final thing before we end up wrapping this up, I want to touch on, by the way, moving into Discovery again, is the captaincy of the USS Discovery in Season 3. We know that's sort of up in the air. Doug Jones was recently interviewed before his Saturn Award, so congratulations to him for winning that. He basically said, Season 3 is going to explore the state of the Federation, which we spoke about previously, but also how it reflects him and what happens to him in Season 3, because as we know, he's acting captain, but with a rank of commander, so he's not officially the captain of the Discovery, but I guess to the crew, he's definitely the captain. However, is he going to get replaced in Season 3? Is it going to come under some sort of challenge? Hopefully Burnham's not doing another mutiny anytime soon, but
Yeah, so here's my thoughts on that, is narratively, what we've seen in Discovery so far. One, Burnham, people kind of forget this a little bit, but Burnham does have a little bit of seniority over Saru because she was actually first officer of the Shenzhou, in the pilot episode of Discovery. So she's got obviously a little bit more experience running a ship than necessarily Saru may have. But the way that they establish these characters' roles in season 2, especially, is Burnham is the one that goes and does the things, and Saru is the one that stays on the ship and keeps it going. There are countless events that happen in season 2 where Burnham is off doing something.
We see it in season 1 as well.
And season 1 as well, yeah. But it was kind of a little bit all over.
Yeah, I just remember that first episode. I think it's the third episode, was it? Whichever one where Jason Isaacs' Lorca gets kidnapped, Saru becomes the acting captain, and we really see the first time that is Tessa Saru. And I love how he brings up, the most decorated Starfleet captains, and it references Robert April and stuff like that. I love that.
I know that was a great little.
But yeah, focusing on season 2, like you mentioned, he's definitely been tested to be the captain. I want to see him as captain. I'm not too keen on having Burnham as captain. Nothing against the actress or the character. I think Saru personally fits the chair better than Burnham. But after watching all of the Discovery episodes, that's my decision. What do you think about it?
Oh, I agree. That that's what I was gonna say is his. They have flourished her character as being the away team master, the master of away teams, whereas his is the master of the bridge crew. And they've had so many times where he's had a rousing speech to the crew. He led them during the battle at the end of season 2 with Section 31. He's obviously he's very comfortable in the captain's chair. And I feel like his whole character arc has been building to him to become the captain. He lost his ganglia. He dealt with the revolution of his people. He's felt more comfortable leading the charge in the captain's chair during a conflict. He's not so timid, but he's also not so overly aggressive as he was in certain episodes. He's really become a character that I feel like they've specifically been grooming to make the captain. I feel like the only reason they didn't make him the captain is just to give us something to talk about, which is exactly what we're doing. But I really would be so surprised if he is not the captain of the Enterprise, or excuse me, the Discovery. The only thing there that I find interesting is there's a theory out there that Michelle Yeoh's character, Empress Georgiou, may try to make a power play.
Someone just said that in a chat, by the way. They said, SC says, Georgiou is a ranking officer. And I was going to say that, so you've just given a great point. No, she's not technically the ranking officer. She's in Section 31, which is outside of Starfleet, and she's also the only one there. She's also an ex-Terran Empress, or Emperor. I personally wouldn't trust her with a ship, to be honest.
Right,
really.
Right. And ultimately, like, as far as we know, the Federation is still around, and they're going to have to report into, Federation headquarters, and they're going to appoint a captain. They're not going to appoint the Mirror Universe Empress Georgiou.
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. They're going to
meant to be dead.
Right, they're going to appoint Saru, and they may do a little bit of a drama before they get in contact with the Federation, where there's a little bit of a power play there.
Well, yeah, with what you said there, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Georgiou mutiny or try and take the ship back or something like that. It fits her character complex quite well, because she's been trying to find a way back to, or her time all the time. Well, not all the time, but it's obvious sometimes she wants to return there, I think. So maybe there's going to be something going wrong there, or it's going to be some sort of power play. Bang! It results in Jason Isaacs coming back as Prime Lorca. Now he's the captain. Yay! No, I'm joking. That's not going to happen.
I wish. That'd be cool.
Find Prime Lorca.
Yeah, fine. We need to find our Prime Lorca boy. To me, they have built Burnham to be our away team character that's going off on the adventures, and they've built Saru to be the tempered captain of the Discovery. And I think that their dynamic, it's probably the most powerful dynamic in the show right now between Burnham and Saru. Like, their relationship is probably the best one that we have in the show. And keeping her as his first officer, his number one, and him as the captain, I think is going to play really well. And I think that's the route that they should go, because she's always going off on the adventures, and it would be weird. I mean, obviously typical Trek, especially TOS, is, the captain goes off on the adventures, that he's the one that's going off and doing the things, or she's going off and doing the things. But I feel like they have an opportunity here to make it so that the first officer is the one going off and doing the adventures, because she's already doing those. And Saru has already proven himself to be the one who stays behind and is a part of the.
We see sort of a Riker Picard essence of a relationship going on here, and we almost saw it between Pike and Saru as well. One of the scenes I loved particularly with Saru and Pike was during the it was when Culber Or was it Cobb and Stamets? I don't know. It was when Stamets and Ash had the fight. Was that one of them?
It was Culber and Ash had the fight, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, we don't have a Starfleet manual for ship's doctors that come back from the dead." Yeah,
that's for some
so
reason.
good.
That's why the
So
conversation we had really reminded me of the Riker/Picard relationship for Next Generation. It wasn't, Riker would not say it in that essence of a broad term, but it reminded me of sort of sarky conversations that went on between those two sometimes. And when you reflect it back, we already start to see that between Burnham and Saru, where Saru is essentially Picard and Burnham is Riker, the sort of brash one who runs off and does whatever she wants, essentially. Meanwhile, Saru's calmly sits back and sorts to analyze the situation. And, it's sort of like in the character, he's a bit like Picard, if we were to compare them. Sort of analyzes things carefully, doesn't charge head straight first, etc.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more of a action streak to him, but he definitely has a bit more temperament. The very bit diplomat, kind of the diplomat temperament, very similar to that of Picard. And yeah, that's why I say, like, I feel like they just didn't make him the captain so that they could either do like a little bit of a power play thing with Michelle Yeoh, or that they just wanted to give us something to talk about. But I think by the end of season 3, we'll have definitely solidified Saru as the captain, and hopefully even before then, hopefully way before then, he'll be solidified as the captain, because that's where, in my opinion, that's just where he needs to be. Like, narratively, his character should belong there. That's where he belongs, in my opinion. And I think Sonequa Martin Green does a fantastic job. I think she's good as a first officer, and I think she's great on the adventure stuff. I think she's really proven that she has the ability to go on the away missions and to do the hard, dirty work. Not to say that Saru doesn't, but he's had more time to prove himself. Like, I don't actually think that there's been a time where, other than the Mirror Universe, but I don't think there's ever been a time where she's taken the captain's chair, ever.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think she's sat on the Discovery captain's chair.
Right. So I think that, to me, like, I feel like they're building us.
I definitely think, as you mentioned earlier, there's going to be some sort of power play in the opening episodes of Discovery season 3. When you think about it, I think is there 100 people on board Discovery? Roughly, let's say round it to 100 for the sake of this. They're going to be frightened and scared in the story element when they arrive here. We already know when they arrive in the in the future, that Burnham is separated from Discovery. We know that. That's what was stated at San Diego Comic-Con. We also know that Discovery is technically still badly damaged from its fight with Control. We know there's no time difference, presumably, unless this trailer tells us differently. But when they jump from the end of Section 31 battle to the future, there is no time difference. Obviously, they've jumped, but nothing's changed on the ship. So they're still going to arrive in that damaged state of where, Stamets has just been hit on the head by some falling debris, because who the hell puts a window in a corridor like that above an elevator? Who the hell designed that? Still got problems with that design. So they're heavily damaged. The bridge has got rocks falling out of thin air, as in typical Star Trek. So there's going to be a crew there who are quite frightened and shattered. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a power play by Georgiou, or maybe even Nan or something like that. I don't know. If something's going to go on there, it's not going to be as straightforward as I think people think it is.
I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. And I can't wait to see it actually play out on screen. I'm excited. Season 3 of Discovery is going to be, I think, is their time to prove, and I think they're going to knock it out of the park. I have great faith. I do.
So hopefully with New York Comic Con, as I mentioned, it is coming on October 5th this weekend as a Saturday, I think 6 p.m. BST if you're in the UK. Check our article down below in the description should you want to view the details. We're going to see Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard. We're both excited for both of them. I think it's going to be quite cool. I'm really excited for these new supposed trailers that are rumoured. And if the Discovery is getting a teaser, I can't wait to see that. And if we're getting potential new The Next Generation cameos in Star Trek Picard, that is going to be a very exciting. Well, Ketwolski, I think that kind of wraps up our stream here. We've met the hour mark, and it was great having a discussion today. Was there any final points you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we covered up some really good things, and together again post New York Comic Con to see how accurate our predictions
maybe we can sit down on your channel. That could be a good idea sometime next week, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. This has been TC's first live stream, and touchwood, it went quite well. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. It's been lovely seeing members of the Trek community. We've got Triangle Studios there, Irish Trek, who was there earlier. There's a few others in the chat, and thank you to Star Trek Pike, aka TJ, for sending me some notes throughout the stream. Greatly appreciated. We'll be back very soon with another live stream, hopefully. Hopefully when those short treks start airing. That'll be quite cool. But in the meantime, I've been Captain Jack here on Trek Central. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Ketwolski for tuning in with us today. And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Would you like to say bye?
Oh, thank you. Goodbye.
Sorry.